I got started in January 2023. And then within 2 years, I hit $500,000 in revenue. I'm like, my full-time job is selling on Etsy. Like, that's bizarre to me, crazy, right? But there is a lot of opportunity on there. I can't control someone pulling out their credit card to make a purchase on Etsy. But what I can control is how much time I'm investing, how many listings I'm publishing, what I'm doing on my end to try to progress my shop. I have definitely seen people making consistently well above 5 figures, a month. So, they're making 10, 15, 20, $30,000 a month on Etsy.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today we have Emily, an Etsy seller. She's done over $500,000 selling print-on-demand products. We're going to get into what that is because a lot of people probably don't know what that is. And thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, so give us kind of a small intro about you, more so like what Etsy really is, because I think you're the first person. We've done almost 100 episodes. You're the first Etsy person we've had on here, so this is good for people to listen to.
Oh, awesome. I'm excited. Yes. I like to think of Etsy as the little underdog because I feel like most people underestimate what's possible on Etsy. And I certainly did at the beginning. So a little bit about me. I am in Florida. I'm a mom to 2 young kids, and my background is in education. So I was working on college campuses and in the K-12 world for about 15 years. And I was, like many of us, kind of looking for a side hustle. And I started on Amazon. Actually, I was selling FBA for a while, but then it didn't really fit into my lifestyle as a mom, as a working mom, just busy. And so one day I stumbled on a video about selling print on demand on Etsy. And I was like, holy cow, this fits everything that I'm looking for in a side hustle. And so I was looking for something I could do from my laptop from anywhere. I didn't want to have physical product. I didn't want to have to be on social media. I didn't want to have to pay a ton upfront for anything. I wanted something really low risk, low cost. And because it was ultimately just about building a better life for my kids, to be able to have more flexibility to be with them. And so I wanted to make sure whatever side hustle I was doing kind of fit that. And so I stumbled across this video and they were explaining that you can kind of see what's selling on Etsy, see what's popular out there in the world. You can create a design, a simple design on a tool like Canva. You can put it on a product with a print partner. And then when you make a sale on Etsy, that print partner actually does all the work of, fulfilling that product. So they're printing it, they're packaging it, and they're shipping it to the customer. So everything that's done by you as the seller is done completely from your laptop, and you're able to do pretty much from anywhere. You're not having to carry inventory. You're not having to pay for the product before you know that it's going to sell. And that was really big for me. And you're not having, again, to like store a bunch of things, in your house or a warehouse or anything like that. So, and then the last thing that I loved about it was that pretty much all of my traffic, for the majority of my traffic, is organic. So I wasn't having to market on social media. I wasn't having to show my face. I wasn't having to pay for ads, anything like that. So that was kind of what drew me in. And then I got started in January 2023. And then within 2 years, I hit $500,000 in revenue. And it just continues to go really well. And I love sharing about it.
This is basically like Etsy drop shipping, right? That's probably the simplest phrase.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So actually, John, you asked your question because he almost started doing this. So you probably have a better off the bat, like beginner question than me. But
yeah, so I almost started this probably the beginning of last year because I was looking for some other options. I ended up doing the Amazon influencer program just because it was easier for me to kind of transition into that. You said you started with no design skills. So I feel that's a big hurdle for a lot of people. And I will say there's a lot of really good tutorials out there for people. I was just kind of impatient and wanted to do something else. But kind of go into that a little more because I'm probably sure a lot of people are sitting here. It's like, well, good for her. Like, I don't even know what Canva is. Like, I'm so lost. So maybe go into that a little bit.
Sure. Yes, I had zero graphic design experience. I mentioned my background was in education. I had never, created a design. I had never designed anything myself. That wasn't something I ever had to do in any of my jobs. So it wasn't something I was very familiar with. I will say, I think I came into it with a natural I joke I got it from my mom. Like a natural ability to like know what looks good though. I mean, you do have to have some sense of that, but you don't have to be able to design before you get started. There are some really great tools out there now that are helping with that. So Canva is incredibly beginner friendly. The way that they set up that platform makes it very, very easy to jump into it. And then there are some great AI design tools that have come out since I even started. So there's a new design tool called Playground, and they have templates, and you put in word prompts, and it's able to give you designs now. And even using things like ChatGPT that can now give you designs. And so you are able to use AI to help with that, which is great. But for the first 2.5 years, I was using very simple designs. And when I say simple, I mean my best selling products are literally black words on that's it, like black words on whatever the product is. So I think it just goes to show you don't have to be able to do like ornate graphic designing. It's more just about like the words you're using. And what I like to tell people too, especially if they're coming from the Amazon space or they're coming from another side hustle, is you have that experience in sourcing. And the biggest piece about print on demand is using that sourcing knowledge to then research and do market research on Etsy. Because I was so glad I had started in the Amazon space because I had really gotten into that habit of sourcing before you make any decisions. And on Etsy, it's the same thing. You have to do research to figure out, like, okay, well, what is even selling out there? What are people buying? And then you use that information to create a really, really simple design. Like I said, it can be as simple as text, and that's all. And I think that was really helpful for me, was to bring that kind of experience and that knowledge and that idea of having to do that research beforehand, and then just creating really simple designs. But like I said, there's so many tools out there now. I do think, of course, everyone will come in with in a different place. Like, some people might have some experience, some might not have any, but I think just being willing to learn and take the time to do that can take you a long way.
Are these mostly viral things like spur of the moment stuff, or is it like longevity to these products that you're making, or is it a combo?
Um, so I have built my shop off of more evergreen designs. So evergreen being that they sell year round. I was just looking, I had just made a sale a little while ago on a product I made in, I think it was like October of 2023. So I still have things that are consistently selling, for a year and a half. And there are definitely some print on demand sellers that their thing is these trends, the hot items, political things, pop culture things like that. That is not where I've really put my attention. So I focus mostly on evergreen designs that can sell year round. And then the other thing that I have done, and I have a course where I teach, is called the Gift Lab, but I actually changed from selling apparel pretty early on in my shop to focusing more on gift products. So things like journals and candles and bags and, golf towels, things like that, that people are giving as gifts. And that is where I found that there was a lot of potential on Etsy, because Etsy is now pushing being the go-to place for a unique gift. And also with those products, you don't have to have a ton of design experience. T-shirts take a little bit more graphic designing. And so something like a candle, you can put words on a label and they make someone laugh and then they want to buy it. So there's definitely some options there for people who don't have that experience, but I focus mostly on evergreen, more minimalist things, on gift products that can sell year round.
And is it branded? Is it like? Do you think what one of the reasons you get all of them is like not branded, but like you people go to your shop and look for stuff, or they organically search and stuff and find your stuff?
More organic for
Wow.
sure. I do get return customers. I do have like loyal customers that will come back and be like, oh, I wanted to buy another one of these, or now I'm going to buy it for my whole team, or whatever that might be. But for the most part, it's all just organic search. And they're finding it just through typing, gift for grandma in the search bar. And then my products are popping up.
So how do you get them to rank? Is it SEO or what's the combo here to make sure your stuff sells?
Yes, so it's definitely SEO, which was really intimidating to me. I had zero idea what the heck SEO even stood for when I was starting this. And then I really soon realized you really just want to find the words that people are typing into the Etsy search bar to look for those products. And then the second piece of that is I learned really quickly that you have to get specific with what you're selling. So, gift for grandma, it's going to be hard to rank for that, especially as a new shop. But if you're selling a gift for your abuela, so maybe you come from a Spanish family, a Latin family, and you're looking for a more specific gift for your grandmother, you could have, a journal with abuela on it and the grandkids' names on it. And that is going to go a lot further than like a general gift for grandma. So it's definitely SEO, but it's also getting really specific with who your audience is. So, another example being, there's a lot of mom stuff out there. Mom stuff is going to be hard, but if you're selling specifically to a tennis team mom, you're going to get a lot further. And so, I always say, like, it's almost less about SEO and more about getting specific and making sure you're selling to that one specific person. And because when they type, tennis mom gift in the search bar, you'll be one of the few people who pops up as opposed to competing with a million other people in a gift for mom.
Yeah, yeah, John.
So when you're kind of talking about different niches and stuff like that,
Yeah.
kind of what's your strategy? Is it more of a volume play, or you kind of find something that works and you do more of that, or kind of how do you go about that?
It's a little bit of both. I would say because I came into this with no experience, I definitely had to post a good number of listings because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how to design. I was trying to figure out what, up from down and left from right. And so for me, I did have to post, a good number of listings because I was learning as I went. And the best way to learn in this space is just to keep practicing. What's great about Etsy is because it's so low risk, it's 20 cents to post a listing. And so I figured, okay, well, I can do that and I can post a lot of listings and figure out what works and what doesn't. And so I would say, though, like, that first year was a lot of learning. It was a lot of ramping up. It was a lot of trying things. And so, but once I started to see what was working, then from there, I was really able to just double down and focus in like those directions, and I wasn't really trying to do everything. So one example is I have one design that I've used on probably 200 products, and I've used the same design, but I've just changed out words. And I use that template and I just change out the words and I just apply it to a different person, a different niche, whatever that is. And you can get quite a few listings done by working in that way. So a lot of it is just being efficient. It's using the data to see like what's selling, what isn't selling. How do I do more of that? It's just like with any other side hustle, right? Like it's like figuring out what works and then how do you just keep doing more of that. But in the beginning, there certainly is some quantity game to it because you have to just kind of test what is working and what isn't.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what kind of hurdles are people having with these guys with this business? Because I would assume that this is a big exponential growth thing where you do a lot of work and you get nothing for a long time, and then all of a sudden you figured something out and you make a lot. So what kind of
Yes.
hurdles do people go through? And like, I'm sure you teach a lot of people, so that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. And I think that's, I would like to say too, and I mean, it's like many other things. I see so many people quit in that waiting phase. And then it's like, oh, we were just about to get, like, I could see you were getting close. Like, because there's a lot of different factors, a lot of things that do kind of have to come together and click. And then you start to see that momentum. And what's great about Etsy is there's definitely a snowball effect. I don't know if it's their algorithm. I don't know if it's just whatever it is. But once you start to make some sales, Etsy likes to push you up because they want to make you, they want you to make sales. So they're going to keep kind of pushing your product. So once you can kind of push and get one sale, then 10, and then 100, I see people go from 100 sales to 500 sales in like no time because that first 100 was really slow, but then they kind of have figured it out. Etsy is starting to know where to put them and things just sort of start to take off. But in terms of hurdles, I think for a lot of people it is the waiting game. I think it's that mental piece of it. It's being willing to kind of sit and be patient for a while. And also being okay being bad at it. Like I knew wholeheartedly in the beginning, I was terrible. Like my listings, my designs were awful. And that's okay, but I knew that and I was like, okay, the only way to get to the other side is to just go through it. Like I have to just keep practicing. I have to keep trying this. I have to go, go through this really slow part to get there. And I think a lot of times I think that mental piece is honestly the hardest. I had just come off a coaching call and I had a few students that were like, "Oh, I feel like I'm trying and I'm just not making a sale yet." And I'm like, "I know we are so close." And like because it is you're bringing together like you have to learn the designing and you have to learn how to write your title and you have to learn how to source, you have to learn how to market research, and when you see all those three things come together, you start to see progress, but it takes you a while to kind of get all of those figured out. And I would like to say, though, like none of it is hard, it just takes time. And I like literally mean it when I say I had no experience. So, I mean, I was an educator managing college residence halls. Like, I did not have any business experience, none of this, but it took time, it took patience, it took a lot of just like being willing to be bad and have failure and then learn from that and just keep getting better.
Yeah, I always talk about on here how like all business coaching is like a large aspect is motivational coaching, but I'm sure what you're doing, it's like 95%. You're just giving motivational speeches because the stuff, like you said, it can't be that hard, but it's more of just like you have to get a little bit better, and then wait on it all, right? So I'm sure you're giving
Yes.
lots of motivational calls in your stuff.
Yes. Yes. Definitely try to like focus on that mindset piece. I think it's so important. And, it's funny, I've worked with a lot of Amazon sellers who are interested in moving into this space. And like, I have to work really hard with them because actually there's a quicker return a lot of the times on Amazon. And so they're like, oh, I sent it in already and it made a sale. And I'm like, okay, well, Etsy doesn't work quite like that. Like, this is different. But the opportunity for like a sustainable business where you're not having to touch anything is like so incredible. And so it just takes that patience. But yes, I do a lot of pep talks, a lot of motivating, a lot of just like, be patient, keep practicing. Like, that is all you can do right now. And I promise it can happen. But, and I think too, it's hard because you don't want to be bad at something. You don't want your designs to not be good. But I think that's the only way to get there is to do it that way.
Yeah, it's hard too. I don't think people have a great understanding of like the lower risk and the lower cost of stuff is just going to take longer because there's more people that can do it. There's more competition. There's more of all this stuff. But then when you can shove like $1,000 a day into ads, yeah, you're going to get better faster, but you're going to burn a bunch of money doing it. Which
Yeah,
and Amazon's the same way. You can just go to the store and buy stuff and sell it, but like it's not as passive, that kind of thing. So I think that's hard for people
right.
to understand too. So
For
very
sure.
good that you're coaching. You're talking about making the digital products though. So talk a bit about that. What kind of digital products do you sell?
Yeah, so I started my print on demand shop January 2023, and then in August or so of that year, August 2023, I was thinking, okay, this is going pretty well. I'm enjoying it. Kind of was wondering, okay, is this a fluke or is this like did I really kind of figure this out? And I had been hearing a lot about digital products, which digital products are even more passive, right, than print on demand because there's no physical product involved. The customer instantly receives whatever that digital file is as soon as they purchase it on Etsy. So I was like, okay, well, let me try and open a digital product shop. I opened a second Etsy shop. And within a month on that shop, I was making daily consistent sales. And I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, okay, so I guess I really did kind of get the hang of how to do the research, how to put together listings, how to design, that kind of thing. My digital product shop, I spend, I will say, probably 2 to 3 hours a week, if that, working in it. And it brings in a really, I would say, a healthy, it's, 4-figure profit every month. It's not my highest earning thing, but I spend no time in it. So it's definitely an area I want to invest more time in because there's a lot of opportunity there. But it was one of those things similar. I spent a lot of time at the beginning, kind of building my shop up, filling it with products, doing all of that. And then now I've been able to kind of sit back and let it just work for me in the background. And I love that shop. It's great. And it's just such a fun business opportunity because I literally don't do anything in there. Digital products are interesting though. What I will say is I do find them harder to design. So they're more passive in the sense that once they're listed, you don't have to do anything. But digital products can take, whereas on print on demand, I can put 4 words on a mug and make a sale. Digital products, depending what you're selling, do take more graphic ability. And so that can take people a little bit of time to figure out, but you can also sell incredibly simple digital products and make sales. I see people selling baseball team snack sign up sheets. It's literally just a table on like an 8.5 by 11 paper with a baseball on it and baseball team sign up. And they're selling it for, it might only be $2 to $3, but I would take it. Right. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity out there, but I will say, I think in my personal opinion, the digital product space is amazing, but it does take a little bit more graphic ability or to learn that when you get started.
Yeah, but the margins are great. I forgot to ask this before.
Yes.
What are the margins like on those physical products?
Sure. So my POD products probably range margin wise from 30 to like 45%. And then digital products after Etsy fees, that kind of thing, you're looking at about 85% or so. So it's great. So my revenue is a lot lower in my digital product shop, but my margins are so much higher. So it works out. But my print on demand shop, I'm usually averaging after Etsy fees, after, think production cost, all of that. I usually fall between 30 to 35%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So I get a lot of the people watching this sell on Amazon. What would be your kind of, they sell on Amazon, they want to get into Etsy, walk them through maybe like an ideal situation, what they should do, what they can expect, and kind of
Sure.
walk them through that.
Before we get into that, if you could just take 1 second, like this video, we would greatly appreciate it. It really helps get this out to more people, and that will allow us to get better guests for you guys. And if you are feeling extra generous, leave a comment what you like about it or tag us on social. Thanks so much. Now let's get back to the episode.
I have always said I think Amazon sellers are primed to jump into print on demand or digital products on Etsy in a place in such a good place. And the reason I say that is what I said earlier is that if you have learned how to source for Amazon or you have learned that whole business model and learned how to see something that is selling and resell it and whatever it is that you're doing on Amazon, but if you already have that skill set, you are one step ahead of most people. Because I think where I see the people coming into Etsy and print on demand without any side hustle experience or Amazon experience is that research piece of it. So that looking at the numbers, analyzing the data, that is a hard thing to kind of wrap your mind around. But if you're already doing that, you already are sourcing, you're doing, you are already analyzing charts and numbers and all of that, then you have a leg up, which is great. So I just like to add that encouragement. I would say, the first thing would be just to really I always tell people, open your Etsy shop, open your Printify account. Printify is my print partner of choice. I love them. They're amazing. But open an Etsy account, open a Printify account, sync them, and then just start taking in content. So whether it's on YouTube, whether you get a course, whether you're following people on Instagram, but it's like just kind of learn what are the logistics of this. And then after that, it's diving in. I always tell people, don't open Canva, don't open anything else until you have learned about kind of the sourcing, the research piece of this, like figuring out what is even out there, what does this look like, what can I do? And then when people really get started, I always recommend to them pick one product. So if that's t-shirts or that's mugs or that's candles or that's a tote bag, pick one of those and then pick one niche to start with. Like, because it's so easy to have shiny object syndrome where you're trying to do a million things. So pick one niche and say that that is, let's say careers, right? Like you just are going to focus on career things, or maybe it's gifts for men, right? Like you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on men and sports or something like that. So focus on one space and just focus your attention there for a good amount of time, because it's going to take you time to learn all the different pieces to this. And if you're trying to try different products and you're trying to look at different customers and you're trying to do different designs, it's going to be really hard. But if you stay focused on one product and one niche, it makes it a lot easier to kind of jump in and practice and get better at it.
What about the future of Etsy and like how it's progressed over the years? Because I really don't ever hear much about it, but I always hear people around me talking about buying stuff from Etsy. So do you think that the volume on Etsy is growing a lot on like people shopping there? Are there numbers on that? I don't know, that kind of thing.
I do think I'd have to look at specific numbers. I do know that Etsy is really pushing right now to be like they had Super Bowl commercials and they have commercials now on like primetime TV and all these things pushing to be, and a lot of their commercials are around this gift idea.
Mhm.
And so they're really pushing it as a platform, a go-to platform for gift buying. And so I think that's what makes it really powerful. I think what's also great about it is customers know that most of the time they're purchasing from a small business. So they know that they're purchasing from someone like me, and they are so nice. The customers are so nice. And so it's great because it's a very positive environment there. In terms of like the numbers, I mean, I think right now, obviously things are kind of, economy and tariffs and all that kind of stuff. So that will be interesting to see play out just across the board, right? But I think overall, Etsy is really investing in marketing, pushing the platform as a gift, a gift go to. And I think that's a great opportunity there. And like I said at the beginning, I think a lot of us underestimate the power of Etsy, and it has still surprises me on a daily basis. I'm like, my full-time job is selling on Etsy. Like that's bizarre to me, crazy, right? But there is a lot of opportunity on there.
Do they have any competition?
Do like Etsy
Etsy?
directly?
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting. I would say it depends. The clientele, I would say not so much. I mean, Amazon is a competitor in some sense because now you can actually sell print on demand on Amazon. So some people are starting to shift there. Maybe TikTok Shop might be, I would say, a competitor, but direct in terms of being like this kind of handmade or small business, not right now that I think is as popular. No.
Yeah, I never thought about that really. I would think maybe Facebook Marketplace, like what's around you that people are making. That's about it. And if it's
Yeah.
not your local area, there's probably not much. So that is good, definitely for the future. Especially, I don't see people really moving to handmade products on Amazon. I don't know if they have the best rep for that stuff. So that's probably good for Etsy as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
What you got, John?
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier that you had to make a lot of designs before you kind of got the ball rolling. About, if you can remember, how many designs did it take you to do? And kind of, I feel like a lot of people, like, I was listening to this other podcast, are like, everyone just comes on and says, everything's great. I went from here to there and it was great. So was there like a time where you wanted to quit? And maybe like, how'd you get through that? Or what were you thinking about?
Sure. So it took me, I would say, about 50 designs before I made my first organic sale. So that was before the first stranger, my mother-in-law bought something from me, but like till somebody I didn't know purchased something from me, I believe I was between like 50 and 60 listings. Before I started selling, one item per day, before I was getting those daily sales, I think I was at like 150 listings. So, yeah, I mean, and think about at the beginning how long it takes you to do something. So, that did take me a lot of time to figure out. Now, I was spending every waking moment that my kids were not home and that I wasn't working in my 9 to 5 doing this because I really was like, this is it. I'm making this happen. There are no options. Like, I was very dedicated to making this work. And so, I did spend many hours those first few months just trying it, watching. I was listening to podcasts and YouTube content and everything I could, like whenever I could, and then just practicing. And so it didn't happen overnight. It definitely took time. I would say I told myself, so I started this as a New Year's resolution. It was like January 2023. I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to give myself 6 months. And I said, in June, I will decide if I want to keep going with this. And I was like, you cannot let me quit before June. Like, I am determined to make this happen. So I did. And like I said, within a couple months, I was starting to get those daily sales. For some people, it does take longer. If you're not as insane as I was, where I was doing this all the time, then it might take longer, but that's okay too. And so I gave myself those 6 months, but like I said, it was about, I want to say 4 to 5 months in where I was like, oh, wow, I'm bringing in like an extra paycheck every month, and that's great. That helped us like pay off student loans and helped us pay off debt. And like, that was great. I never really expected it to get much bigger than that. And then Q4 happened and it was bananas. So it definitely took, and so January is when I started. And then I had my first real like home run month in, it was like October that year. So yeah, it took time. And yes, I was super happy with the results I was getting, but it took time. And there were a few moments in there where I wanted to quit. I was like, this just isn't worth it anymore, like in the beginning. But then you get one sale and you're like, okay, this is why I'm doing this. Like, there's proof of concept. And I just kept holding on to that proof of concept. Like if one person can purchase one product from me, surely 10 people could. And if 10 people can purchase it from me, then 100 people could. So I really just kind of kept focusing on that. And I will say the other thing that I did that I'm a huge proponent of is I wrote down tangible goals, like tangible action steps that I could take every single day. So I have this magnet whiteboard on my fridge, and my goal was 2 listings per day, and sometimes I did more. So 2 designs, 2 listings that I published in my Etsy shop, and every day I would go and like cross off a day. And it feels very old school, like it is, now I use like Asana or whatever, but like back then it was free. I had it on my board and it was right in front of me. So every day, when I'd go to the fridge, I'd be like, oh, I have to do my 2 listings. I have to like get these done. And that was really helpful. And I always tell people, students, whoever that's starting, focus on what you can control, right? Like I can't control someone pulling out their credit card to make a purchase on Etsy. I can't control that. But what I can control is how much time I'm investing, how many listings I'm publishing, what I'm doing on my end to try to progress my shop. And so that is really where I try to put my focus. I don't even make, which some business people would, totally roll their eyes at. I don't even make revenue goals or anything for myself. Like I focus specifically on what work I want to put into my shop every week. And that's where I put my energy because I can't control the economy. I can't control what people are doing, but I can control what I'm doing to make shifts in my own shop to get there. So sorry, that was a long-winded way to go about that, but I feel passionate about all of that.
No,
No,
that
it's
was
great.
so good, and there was like so much good stuff in there, and I feel like people almost have to do the math. Like when you
Yep.
said 2, it's like okay for me, like off the bat, it's like okay, that's super doable. Like 2 designs, right? It is like intimidating when you first get started, but 2, I always used to tell people when I was coaching Amazon, it's like if you can find 2 to 3 ASINs a day,
Yeah,
right? Like okay, it's gonna take you a couple hours, but times that by 30, we're at 60 to 90. Like that's a
yeah,
huge number, and then times that by 3 months, you got 180 to whatever the math works out to. So I think
exactly.
that's like really cool. And then you kind of just always just giving yourself 6 months. You're like, I have 6 months to make this work. And I think when you have 6 months or anything or a hard deadline, it just makes you think differently. Like, how can I do this in 6 months? How can I get 2 listings up? Like, and it just kind of just things just fall into place for you.
Exactly. Yep. I'm all about those like smart goals. So whatever is like doable for you, whatever you can measure, what are things that you can actually count off, check off, measure yourself that you can do. I mean, that just goes so much further. I've worked with a lot of students who are like, why is no one buying XYZ? And I'm like, I can't tell you that. Like you have no idea. I don't know what the Etsy algorithm is doing. I don't know what your customer is doing, but I know what you're doing and you know what you're doing. So we have to just focus on that. And so it's a lot of just kind of redirecting your attention and your energy back to yourself and like what you can do to try to, again, those numbers, right? Like it's all about, and for me, I'm like, okay, I was bringing in X number of dollars, to us when I had 400 listings. So if I have 800 listings, I can kind of, it's not a guarantee, but I can try to kind of calculate those numbers. And obviously, that's not an exact science, but there is that kind of, okay, let's focus on this and just keep our attention there.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
also
love
like
it.
a really smart goal too, because it's like 2 designs. If you said two
Hmm.
hours, well, you could do a lot of not good stuff in 2 hours, but like the
Yep.
final product you need is a design. So I think defining
Yep.
the goal is important there too.
Yeah, I heard from somebody one time, like focus on the inputs and the outputs. Even when you're talking about, like, let's say you have a coaching group, don't have people putting the revenue screenshots. Have them putting like, I listed 5 things today or whatever. And not only is that's just better morale for the group, and it sets an easy standard of like everybody's listings. Like you do the same amount of work. Now the outputs, that's not in your control, but at least the inputs every day, you're all doing the same type of stuff. I really
For
like that.
sure. For
Although
sure.
most people do make the revenue goals and stuff, but I've never
Yeah.
been that type of person either. It's hard to reverse that, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, I was watching a podcast before this that you were on, that you had just quit your job not too long ago, right? And moved full
Yes.
time to Etsy.
Yep.
So I think we have a lot of people probably in that spot. A lot of people are working the 9 to 5, want to move on. How did you make that decision? And like, was there a metric that you're like, okay, this is enough to quit, or is it just I'm going to take the chance?
Sure. So I would say, so I left my full time job at the end of January. It was a hard decision. And I'm one of the rare people that I actually really liked my job. Like, I really loved my team. I had been a manager for many years and I loved my supervisor. I worked at a really great place. So it was very hard for me to make that decision. After my first Q4, my husband and I kind of sat down and I was like, okay, I think this is doable, and we just came up with some numbers, like where do we really need to be, factoring in taxes and all that kind of stuff, like where do we really need to be. And then I also worked last year to diversify my income streams a bit as well. So I do some client work, like I do some freelance work, obviously I'm coaching, things like that, but Etsy is still my main income stream, so that has not changed. But I did try to build in some safety nets for myself, just in case. I did, full transparency, I did work with a business coach to help me like map all those numbers out and figure out, like, okay, if you want to be here, this is what this needs to look like percentage wise, and here's what you need to be bringing in, all of that. So I did a lot of prep work. I probably could have left my job a lot sooner, but I was really wanting to be safe. And so I went part time in my job last June, and that was kind of like a baby step for me. They were super supportive of me going part time. And that was like a good step to kind of see, like, okay, we spent 6 months where I was part time and doing the solopreneur thing, and that went really well. And then after Q4 this year, I was like, I just physically can't do all of it anymore, because I was still managing a team, even though I was part time. So I was managing employees, and then I was managing 2 Etsy shops. I was coaching people. I was, doing client work. And I just like was like, I like literally can't, I don't have enough hours in the day. So we came to the place where, like, okay, it's time now. It's the right time. So I left at the end of January. But there were a lot, it was like, I remember when I first started doing the side hustle thing, I was like, okay, I want to leave my job. Even though I liked it, I was like, I want to leave my job when my daughter goes to kindergarten. And then I was like, this is not realistic. And I needed to really put safeguards in place, take our time. Can't tell you how many spreadsheets and things I have where I was like mapping it out and looking at, because now I had 2 years of selling on Etsy pretty much to look at and see the trends. Like, now I know, January is always like my lowest month of the year. And like we can plan for that. Or June and July are always a little bit slower. What can I do to help with that? So there's just some things, like we really wanted to be safe. And I think it can feel like it's an urgent thing to want to leave. And I was very privileged in the fact that I loved my job, but I was also ready to leave. Like, who wants to clock in every day, right? Like, that's sure. But I definitely took my time, took a lot of precaution, did a lot of planning, and then finally came to that place.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you do coaching. So do you
Mhm.
have do you do a course, a group coaching? The reason I ask this is because I think a lot of people with the Etsy stuff, like, where do they even get started? And
Yeah.
there's always different. I think maybe you get a course for one business, maybe you need a coach for another business. Like, what do you decide to do there? And then what do you think's, what was your reasoning behind, okay, I'm going to do this instead of maybe make a course or make a group or whatever you decide to do?
Hmm. Yeah, so I happened to get in touch with a group last year called Gold City Ventures, and they are known for, they are one of the biggest courses like in the digital product space for Etsy, and they are really well established, have a ton of successful students. And Julie and Cody, who are the owners there, connected with me, and I started coaching with them in their Facebook group for digital products, and then we started talking about a print on demand course. And for me, it was a great opportunity because they are so well established. They have a lot of trust built in the Etsy space. And so the we went all in and we created a course called the Gift Lab that launched Black Friday. So it was like November of this past year. And our focus there was this gift opportunity that's there, right? So many print on demand courses are about t-shirts or focused on apparel, things like that. And in my research, because I'm a bit of an Etsy research nerd, I was seeing so many new shops like mine was that were having successful shops, lots of sales, not selling t-shirts. And I was like, I feel like this is a great opportunity for potential sellers because in my opinion, they're easier to design, there's less saturation, and Etsy is really pushing being a gift platform. So we collaborated on this, we launched it like I said, November of this past year, called the Gift Lab. And we walk through our 5 top recommended beginner friendly print on demand products. So everything from opening your Etsy shop to syncing it to Printify, to how to research, to how to design in Canva. We give templates for those products. And it's really like A to Z, how to take you from nothing to having a shop with listings in it for these more gift focused products. Now, obviously, you can apply what we talk about to any product on Printify, but those are the 5. And so the 5 products we talk about are candles, journals, ornaments, which ornaments, fun fact, sell all year. And I think there's a lot less competition for those. Tote bags and mugs. And so those are the like kind of the 5 we talk about, and we walk through every step of the process with those. And then with that course as an add-on, I do have a coaching group. So every Tuesday, we have a live call on Zoom and answer all of their questions. We screen share, we do shop audits, listing audits, walk through, like today, we walk through how to research for a teacher gift and like how do you create something unique and how do you create something simple but unique. And so we walked through all of that. And so it's become a really great group that we have building there. And yeah, so that was kind of our goal with that, was just to help take someone from never having sold on Etsy to looking at this opportunity in the gift space with print on demand and being able to do that from A to Z.
Yeah, I like that. I've never really thought about it like that before. That's a catchy name, by the way. But
Oh,
yeah,
thanks.
when I think about that stuff, assuming when we had you on, I was like, she probably sells T-shirts. So
Yep.
that is really cool. The more you talk about like that's not even I don't even touch that stuff anymore. It's more of the other stuff, which I guess that doesn't really cross your mind because when you think of print on demand, you just think of T-shirts, hoodies.
Yep.
That's the standard stuff, but it's so much bigger. The candles too. Those like you can get candles from Printify.
Yep. Yep, there's all sorts of candles. I tell people all the time, you can get everything from shower curtains to, I have seen shops who are killing it selling doormats from Printify. Doormats. And what's cool about doormats is that's really, you just need to put words on it. It's wild. So there's everything that you can think of. The products we picked, those 5, were based on research. So looking at shops that were like less than a year old, those that were making consistent sales, what they were doing. And that's what we try to incorporate into the course, is like it's all coming back to data and what's actually working for new shops.
What's the like cap use or not cap's a bad word, but what's like the top end of how much money people are making a month on Etsy, and then what is your average you see, just to give people like a a realistic like view of like where this thing can go.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of a cap, I mean, it's hard to say because some of the data we can see is limited, and so we can't always like exactly tell. But I have definitely seen people making consistently well above 5 figures, a month. So they're making 10, 15, 20, $30,000 a month on Etsy. So I would say those are people that have a lot of listing. They're doing different things, probably people with experience, that kind of thing. I have seen it be very attainable for newer students to start making 500, 1,000, $1,500 a month, and that to be kind of like that like entry point. With Gold City Ventures, we always tell people like, let's focus on making your first $1,000 a month. Like, let's focus on paying your grocery bill. Let's focus on like paying for babysitting or a night out or whatever, or paying off some debt, like that $1,000 a month, and building from there. I have been working with a student recently. She had a shop that was at about, $1,500 a month, and she just couldn't get there. And so we worked together, and now she's bringing in like 4 to 5,000 profit. So that's after everything per month. And she's, still working full time, but now she's making more in her Etsy shop than she was there. So I think it's definitely attainable. I think the range though is huge. And I think it just depends on how much time you have and what you're really looking for. Like, I work with people and they're like, yeah, I only want to bring in, like, if I could bring in $500 a month, I would be happy. And so like we work together, to get to that place. And then I have other people who are like, I want to leave my full-time job. I need to bring in $5,000 a month. And so that's a different story. So just kind of depends on the person, where they're at, but there is definitely a lot of opportunity. I see shops. I saw one, just to give you an idea, I saw one listing, a design the other day, and this was a newer shop. And I think she's been open maybe like a year. She had sold this one product like 600 times in 30 days, 600 times. So like there is a lot of opportunity, and I have not had a product like that. But I have been successful. So there's all sorts of ways you can kind of slice it, but there's a lot of opportunity on there. It just, again, as we talked about, it takes like drudging through figuring it out. And that was my hope with the course as well. And that's why, again, I wanted to do it with Gold City Ventures, because they're so reputable, and doing that collaboration is so great, because I feel like we can reach a lot of people and just break it down and be like, okay, you don't have to go watch a million YouTube videos like I did. Like, we're just going to show you what you really need to know. And that was our goal with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's good, John.
Yeah, I didn't realize. So, what was your Amazon background, or what did you do before?
Yeah, so I started selling on Amazon. I think it was like September of 2022. So it was like right before I started on Etsy. And I went like all in. I think I stopped selling, I forget. It was after Etsy started really taking off, but I was doing OA, I was doing some RA, and then I had built a relationship with a local distributor who sells. So I live in Florida on the beach, like near the beach, and I was working with a local distributor who sells surfing products, and I was selling surf products for a while on Amazon, like reselling them. And so I did that for a while. I was a 6-figure Amazon seller, but it just wasn't like the right fit for me, like I said, just lifestyle wise and what I was looking for. But I felt like, okay, I was able to kind of figure that out. And so it was helpful to take that over to Etsy afterwards.
How does it feel not having to invest so much money in the products?
So great. That honestly, that was like one of the main reasons I just couldn't do it anymore, because I kept thinking about like, I have 2 kids, and I was just like, this is their college money. Like, these are their, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. And so it was nice when I was working with the distributor, because that was a little bit more like I sold the same kind of 10 things all the time. And I did that for a while. But I love that with print on demand, you don't pay for anything till someone makes an order, and then you pay Printify, and then obviously you get paid from Etsy. But it's like, okay, someone's already made this purchase. So this is like safe, for the most part, safe money that I'm putting out. Whereas on Amazon, it was always, you can do as much sourcing and vetting and whatever, but you know, it just depends.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Well, I stopped selling Amazon like 2 years ago, but I was doing over 2 million a year on there. And I thought about the future, and I was like, man, eventually I'm gonna have kids. I want to need a
Yeah.
stable life, but like I can't have like 50K in Hello Kitty dolls or something. And like when my kids need food and like school and stuff like that. So that was another thing to me that I was like, is it worth it? All that type of thing. So that's much more appealing to me. I think it would be to a lot of other people too. And I think what people probably don't understand either is your 8K a month on Etsy, or if it was 5K a month, 3K a month, is probably similar to a 30, 40K a month on Amazon, if not maybe even more, because all that money's like you said, there's nothing you pay for until you get orders. Are you
Right.
running ads? Like, is there anything else that you would even pay for there?
I do very minimal ads. So, like in my digital products shop, I've never run ads. My print on demand shop, I didn't start running ads till about over a year in. I'm only spending like $10 a day. It's not anything big. It's more just to kind of test things and like help push certain products, but I'm not a big I'm really big on organic traffic. There's a
Mhm.
lot of opportunity there, especially if you're newer in the business space. Like there's no need to be losing money when you're doing this. So you can definitely make progress and make sales without having to do that.
Yeah. Do,
Yeah.
do you do any off platform? I'm assuming not, but I feel like maybe I've heard of this before from like women around me. They'll see something on Instagram and it'll directly link to a Etsy thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a strategy. You don't do any of that.
I don't. It's definitely a strategy. It works for a lot of people. I am not. So while I'm on social media doing now Etsy's like coaching stuff and helping there, but I never wanted to start. I never wanted to become like this big brand on social media and do all these things for my shop. I really did it. I wanted to be totally faceless. Like I was like, I don't want anyone to know I'm doing this. I didn't even tell anyone I had an Etsy shop. And I remember an article came out recently about, whatever, my story. And I had family texting, like, I'm sorry, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, I started this thing like 2 years ago and I didn't tell anyone. So I really did not want to be kind of out there, which was an appeal of Amazon too, because Amazon, I didn't have to like, no one had to know what I was doing. It could be, and so I wanted to maintain that. So there are Etsy sellers who would do a great job on social media. Pinterest is a great option for Etsy products. So there are some marketing options. I always just tell people like, get to a place where you're making organic sales first, where you're making sales and you have some consistency, and then think about adding that in. It's just not the best use of time until you get to that place.
Yeah, somebody's going to listen to this, hear me say that. I overcomplicate it for them already. So ignore that I even said that. I think
Yeah.
that's probably the best advice is like start with the platform and like
Yeah.
learn the SEO because that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
What else you got, John?
Are there any kind of tools that you use in your everyday Etsy shop? I know a couple of them from back in the day, but I don't know if they've changed or not.
I do. My favorite research tool is called Everbee, and that is my kind of go-to one. That's the one we use in the Gift Lab course that we walk through, like how to use it. And that one is great. It's similar to so the storefront stocking idea in Amazon. Everbee is kind of the version of that, where you can go into someone's shop and it will analyze all of their listings and show you which ones are making sales, how many sales per month, like that kind of thing. It'll do it like on an Etsy search page. You can look up keywords, all of that kind of stuff. Everbee is definitely my go-to, and that's been the tool that's helped me a lot. I use Canva for my design, and then I also use Playground, which is that new AI design tool. So I've been using that some, which has been really cool to experiment with and try some different things using Playground. And then really, I mean, that's it. I usually my operating expenses outside of production cost are well under $100 every month. I mean, it's pretty minimal. I
Uh,
would say, yeah, Canva is like $15 a month. I think Everbee is 30. I think Playground is like 15 right now. And then I have like some tools that I kind of use and then cancel, use and then cancels. But usually my expense, like my operating expenses like that are less than 100.
That's
well,
insane. I feel like at the height of my A business, it was like $800 to
Yeah.
$1,000
so,
just in software.
Yep. Yep. So it's very doable. And there's a lot of free options for software, or at least you can try it and see if you like it, and then you can, opt in. But yeah, those are really, I mean, it keeps it very lean, very streamlined. Obviously, your biggest expense is paying for the actual product from Printify. But again, you're getting that payment from Etsy. So it's offsetting that. So it's not like you're having to fork out a ton of money and waiting on that.
How does
how, okay, go.
how does that work? So someone buys something, do you have to front the money, then Etsy
Yeah.
pays you, or Etsy gives you like what's left after?
Yes, you have to pay Printify directly. So if someone buys a journal from me and it costs $10 on Printify, then I have to pay that $10. But then depending on your payment, how your payments are working from Etsy, everyone's is a little bit different, but you can get paid weekly. If you get to a point, like I get paid daily. So like I got yesterday's orders payment today. So it's a pretty quick, it's a very clean, it's not like Amazon where it was always like, where's it? This is like very clean. It's like today I got paid for yesterday's orders for the most part. And then I pay Printify for those up front. But I use a business credit card. So I get rewards still and I get to capitalize on that. So I pay my Printify orders with that rewards card. And that's really nice too.
What about returns? How do those work on there?
Okay. So one thing I love about Etsy is like you don't have to accept returns. And so,
Really?
yeah. It's also, okay, couple pieces to this. You do not have to accept returns. You can be a no return shop. Do I recommend being really, really like absolutely no returns? Of course not. But so it's one of the reasons, though, I moved away from apparel because once I moved away from apparel, I don't have like any returns. If I ever have an issue, it's mostly because maybe something got damaged when it was being delivered. And in that case, Printify will, for you, you can submit like an easy ticket and they'll send a new one for you. So they kind of handle that. But when you're selling stuff that's non-apparel, you don't really have like a ton of returns to begin with, which is great. But yeah, Etsy allows you to not accept returns. They allow you to have return windows or whatever, so you can kind of pick. I usually, I try to work with customers if there is an issue. So sometimes I will eat the cost on one product if it's going to like save me getting a bad review or something like that. But for the most part, it's very, very minimal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to be getting so many DMs after this because when you talk about this, I feel like this is a good. The one thing that gets me that I think is so appealing is we usually have like a lot of UGC people on because John does that and like, but the bridge from Amazon to UGC is like massive in terms of like what you're looking for. Because one, you're showing your face, and Amazon's like the most sit behind a computer thing ever. But this is like low cost, low risk, all that, and you get to sit beside the computer. You don't have to show your face. So
Yep.
I really think a lot of people are going to find this appealing. And you've detailed it really, really well.
Oh, good. Well, I hope it's helpful. And I do think, like I said, Etsy's a little bit of an underdog. I think people kind of like don't think, I mean, I always thought it was like for artists or creatives or whatever. And so there's a lot of opportunity and like all those reasons you just said are exactly why I was so interested and like ready for it. It's funny because now I'm actually looking to start UGC like throughout. That's one of my goals over the next year. But I do feel like this has been a really good step. Like I feel like for me, I've kind of had to take these steps because I had no desire to be out in the world showing my face anywhere. So now I've kind of been able to warm up to that idea. And I think slowly diversifying is always a good thing. Like really kind of whatever you're doing right now, if it's going well, like make sure it's going well and then think about adding in something if you want to. But I think learning one thing at a time is always a good idea.
Yeah. And I have two more questions.
Yeah.
One, what has stopped you from going like in house with these products? So let's say you have one, because I'm sure it works kind of like this. The top 20% of products carry like most of your revenue.
Yes.
What stopped you from just ordering in bulk to get the cost down and doing it that way? Or is it just the money's not worth the inconvenience of having to ship it?
That part. It's interesting. I did try that a little bit. I did order a bulk order of one of the products that I sell, and I had like a printer to print off stuff, and I tried it. And within a week, I was like, absolutely not. Like, I am not doing this. Like, this is exactly why
Yeah.
I started print on demand and selling digital products and doing all this was to never have to like touch any of this. And my schedule is just so chaotic, with kids and work and activities. Like I'm chauffeuring them to swim practices and gymnastics and school. And it's like, I don't want to have to then come home, spend my time packaging a product when I could use that time to create a new product that could then sell. And so for me, it was like really always looking at the time I have available and what makes the most sense. And that just hasn't made sense for me.
Then my last thing, I'm gonna probably send this to like every woman I know because I think this is really good. I think people find it appealing. So, what's your message to a woman that maybe has no experience? And maybe I'm
Mhm.
being sexist. I guess it's for men too, but you
No,
talk to women
I
because I feel
mostly
like
work with women, so that's
yeah.
okay.
So they have no experience. They're scared of like even trying to make money online. What's your kind of? You can give this as a marketing message too, because I'm sure you're going to get a
Sure.
lot of messages. So, what's your kind of message there?
Yeah. Well, first, I always like to say, like, I am literally you. I was sitting in the same exact boat. I was doom scrolling on the internet, a couple years ago and trying to figure out like how to make money. I was seeing all these people making money, right? Like all these people doing different things online and thinking, okay, if these people are doing it, I surely can, but I need something that fits my life. Like, I don't want to change my whole life. I need something that fits what I'm doing, where I'm at, my family, my lifestyle. And I didn't think it was possible. And so, print on demand has really shown me that, like, for somebody who has no business experience, who doesn't have any of this background, and who doesn't want to be out there doing UGC or doing Amazon influencer or posting on social media, that there's still this opportunity out there. And I think you know, there are plenty of Etsy shoppers who are men, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of women who shop on Etsy, and I think as a woman you have a lot of insight into just having the natural ability to know what people are looking for, to design things that look good, to I'm not saying anything against men. My husband surely cannot tell me what looks good. So I I think that as a woman you just have a lot of natural skill that you can bring to this. And even if you are working, not working, whatever it is, like there's just it's a great I love it as an opportunity for women. And again, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you're working or you're not a mom yet, but you want to build a life before you have kids or not have kids or whatever that looks like, this is such a good flexible option. And what's great is you can do it on your own time, right? So you can spend 40 hours a week if you want, or you can spend 5 hours a week. And sure, like your results might come at different paces. But if you're looking for something to do while your kids are napping or on your lunch break, like you can get a lot done in this business in short spurts of time. And I think that's why it's such a good fit for women in particular. And I just love teaching and helping other women see it as an option. And it always has to be about the right fit. I mean, you guys know, talking to different side hustlers and stuff, it's always you got to find the right fit for you. But that's why I love talking about it, especially for women, because it can be such a good fit for so many women out there, regardless of what kind of their day-to-day looks like.
Awesome. What
Sweet.
else, John?
Drew usually asks this question, but I'll ask it. Besides
Okay.
consistency, what do you think what do you see in the most successful sellers on Etsy? What are they doing or what are they not doing?
Sure. So I would say number one is taking feedback. So I think being willing to and open, like I said, to being bad at it and accepting that and saying, like, okay, I know my design does not compare to this bestseller, but I need to figure out how to get there. And so being okay saying that and being okay with the uncomfiness of being really terrible at it at the beginning. Now, some people will jump in and they'll be way better than I was, but being willing to be uncomfortable in that space and being willing to be bad at it and then taking the feedback and looking at things from that kind of bird's eye view and saying, clearly mine is not as good and I'm doing something not as well, so I need to figure out what that is. And I think it's the people who are willing to kind of drudge through that process that I see come out on the other side of it and who do well. And then I think I mean, it's so corny, but the not giving up when it's really quiet. And I talk about this a lot on social media, which is there can be months where it's crickets, right? Like you're not getting views and you're not getting cha-chings and you're not getting this and you're not getting that. And the people that I see don't give up, they start to finally get there. And everyone does it on a different timeline, a different pace. But the people, I see so many people just like be like, well, it didn't work for me. And I'm like, well, how many listings did you post? And they're like, 20. And I'm like, I didn't even get my first sale till I had 50. Like, like you have to keep going. And that part is really hard. But I think for some people, maybe it's not the right time for them. And that's okay. For some people, it's just takes too long to see the results. And that's okay too. But the people I say stick it out are the ones who get there. And like I was telling you about that student who's now at like 5K months profit, it's, she stuck it out and she went through some like times of trying to figure it out, and me telling her like feedback, like, no, this, let's do this, or let's look at this. And she was willing to take that feedback, and she took it and she implemented it, and now she's doing really well. So I think it's that feedback. I think it's being willing to just stick it out when it's quiet.
Awesome. This was
Yeah.
awesome. Do you have any
Yay.
parting words of advice for the audience? And then where can they find you?
I think I've really hit on everything, today. I feel like this was such a good conversation. It's fun it'll be fun to have this out there with your listeners and stuff, especially since I used to sell on Amazon and, do all of that kind of stuff. But I would say, if it's something you're interested in, I do have a free workshop also if you just want to like listen. So you can find that on my Instagram. My Instagram is at ecomemily. So that's ECOMM Emily. And I have a link to my free workshop. So if you just want to learn a little bit more about print on demand, yeah, I recommend just starting there. Just listen to the free workshop, check it out. I share a little bit more about my story. I talk about those 5 products that we talk about why Etsy can be a really great place, and if this is even like a good fit for you. So, and I would just say, like, if you're thinking about diving in, just take it one step at a time. You don't have to learn everything today, tomorrow. It's a process. I'm still learning things 2.5 years later. And, it's just taking it one piece at a time and being okay with that. But yeah, come follow me and join us on Instagram. And I'm having a lot of fun there with my little corner of the internet. And I love just sharing like educational tips, things about Etsy, print on demand, all of that.
All right. Go follow Emily, like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Peace.
Okay.
Peace.
If you enjoyed this episode and know someone else that would enjoy this episode, if you could send them this episode, literally just copy and paste a link, send them on Instagram DM. Everyone loves to network. This is a great way to do it, a very easy way. It helps grow the podcast and get better guests. So the more the podcast gets shared, the more views we get, the better guests we could get for you. We would really, really appreciate it. And tag us on social media and we will share it as well.